Thanks for listening. Hi, and welcome back to the reading of the free ebook, He Is. One benefit of being able to listen to audio rather than read through a book is that you can still follow along with the message, even while carrying on with whatever else you might be doing in your day. So I invite you to do just that. First, let's pray. God, please give me a soft and humble heart as I listen. Please open my eyes and my ears and change my spirit so I may know you and worship you in spirit and in truth. We are working our way through part 3. The devil is real and he wants you to go to hell. He can use those who live in sin. This should be quite evident by now, my friend. We've seen it in the lives of evil kings and in Cain and others who harbor hatred in their hearts, and we have the warning from the Apostle Paul to give no opportunity to the devil. But the reality is that any habitual sin and rebellion to God can become a gateway not only for oppression, where the devil and his forces try to destroy our lives by constantly beating on us and keeping us down, but also to possession, where they have control of us and guide us like a pilot in the cockpit of our mind. 6 days before the Passover, Jesus therefore came to Bethany, where Lazarus was, whom Jesus had raised from the dead. So they gave a dinner for him there. Martha served, and Lazarus was one of those reclining with him at the table. Mary therefore took a pound of expensive ointment made from pure nard, and anointed the feet of Jesus, and wiped his feet with her hair. The house was filled with the fragrance of the perfume. But Judas Iscariot, one of his disciples, he who was about to betray him, said, "Why was this ointment not sold for 300 denarii and given to the poor?" He said this not because he cared about the poor, but because he was a thief, and having charge of the money bag, he used to help himself to what was put into it. The Gospel of John, chapter 12, verses 1 to 6. I imagine, my friend, that you're already familiar with Judas Iscariot, who was the disciple of Jesus Christ, but betrayed the Lord with a kiss. Notice, though, that Judas's heart was so vile that even though he'd spent nearly 3 years following Jesus, learning from Jesus, and seeing him compassionately heal people from every station in life, he was capable of stealing money meant for the poor and to support their ministry work. Wow! Let's continue. Now the feast of unleavened bread drew near, which is called the Passover, and the chief priests and the scribes were seeking how to put him to death, for they feared the people. Then Satan entered into Judas, called Iscariot, who was of the number of the 12. He went away and conferred with the chief priests and officers how he might betray him to them. And they were glad, and agreed to give him money. So he consented and sought an opportunity to betray him to them in the absence of a crowd. The Gospel of Luke, chapter 22, verses 1 to 5. Now before the feast of the Passover, when Jesus knew that his hour had come to depart out of this world to the Father, having loved his own who were in the world, he loved them to the end. During supper, when the devil had already put it into the heart of Judas Iscariot, Simon's son, to betray him, Jesus, knowing that the Father had given all things into his hands, and that he had come from God and was going back to God, rose from supper. He laid aside his outer garments, and taking a towel, tied it around his waist. Then he poured water into a basin and began to wash the disciples' feet and to wipe them with his towel that was wrapped around him. After saying these things, Jesus was troubled in his spirit and testified, "Truly, truly, I say to you, one of you will betray me." The disciples looked at one another, uncertain of whom he spoke. One of his disciples, whom Jesus loved, was reclining at table at Jesus' side. So Simon Peter motioned to him to ask Jesus of whom he was speaking. So that disciple, leaning back against Jesus, said to him, "Lord, who is it?" Jesus answered, "It is he to whom I will give this morsel of bread when I have dipped it." So when he had dipped the morsel, he gave it to Judas, the son of Simon Iscariot. Then after he had taken the morsel, Satan entered into him. Jesus said to him, "What you are going to do, do quickly." Now no one at the table knew why he had said this to him. Some thought that because Judas had the money bag, Jesus was telling him, "Buy what we need for the feast," or that he should give something to the poor. So after receiving the morsel of bread, he immediately went out, and it was night. The Gospel of John, chapter 13, verses 1 to 5 and 21 to 30. It should be quite apparent, my friend, that Judas, who permitted the sin of greed in his life, was not only easily persuaded by the devil, but also ultimately possessed by him. What anyone reading through this incident in any of the Gospels might recognize is that Judas's behavior did not suddenly become erratic like one might expect after seeing one too many Hollywood horror movies depicting demonic possession. Judas, while being possessed, would go to the high priests and Pharisees. It's Judas who devises the plan to betray Jesus with a kiss, and for guards to then seize him, saying, "The one I will kiss is the man." Seize him and lead him away under guard. Judas is also able to lead the men to the Garden of Gethsemane, where he suspected Jesus would be, as Judas himself had been there many times with Jesus. That's a lot of very coherent and normal, albeit wicked and devious behavior. What's concerning, friend, is that being possessed by a demon does not necessarily mean a person must appear stark raving mad. In fact, it would seem then that a great number of people entrenched in sin, isn't that pretty much everyone, could be the victim of demonic possession and not even know it. And no one around them would suspect it either. That concerns me. It should concern you too. Thanks for listening to this video, and I hope that it blesses you. Please do share it with others so they may have the opportunity to understand this incredible truth. Be blessed.